Ben McKee, Patrick Brown back in Knoxville following Tennessee's disappointing loss to Alabama over the weekend. There was plenty to discuss with Josh Heupel, who just met with the media, and we will start with the weird fair catch call on the kickoff that Josh Heupel, you could tell he wasn't pleased by the rule, but by the letter of the law. I guess you could say it was called correctly.
Yeah, the officiating was not a huge talking point for Heupel's press conference. One of the more peculiar, we'll say, calls was the fair catch on a kickoff. Apparently, one of Tennessee's frontline guys pointed to the ball, maybe lifted his shoulder about how high mine is, and apparently that constitutes a fair catch. And so it was spotted and it was adjudicated that way. And Heupel made sure to say that it was lifted barely over the shoulder. But that was a big play in the game because it got Tennessee. They had to start at the 4, right in front of the student section. They played it conservatively, couldn't get first down to get some breathing space, and Alabama was able to keep the momentum going. And Heupel said that's something that they don't coach. Obviously, you wouldn't expect a frontline guy to be waving for a fair catch on a kickoff, so that's pretty obvious. But just sort of a weird deal that hurt Tennessee in that game.
Yeah, by the letter of the law, anything above the shoulders is constituted as a fair catch, and
fair catch signal, yes.
Fair catch signal, so I don't know. It seems like a weird rule, and I don't understand how the return specialist is supposed to see the front line guy pointing to where the football is, but that's a whole another conversation. But that is what it is, I guess. Josh Heupel was also asked about short yardage situations a ton and fourth down situations. Was even asked if he would consider running the tush push, aka the quarterback sneak that the Eagles have become infamous for. And he simply said, we run a lot of formations and we just need to go get the first down.
Yeah, and we have seen them do some full house kind of backfield stuff. There's been, they like to bring everybody in. They kind of bunch up the formation. That seems to be the main one. Tennessee is 1 of 5 on 4th and 1 this season. I think the only one they got was against Virginia, I believe. And, of course, they got stopped in that game, too, in a similar situation as on Saturday. And in that game, we saw them do sort of the rugby play that's going to be outlawed, I got to think, after this season that the Eagles are so good at, where they had, I think it was Javonte Spraggins and Tyree West in the backfield, and they pushed Joe Milton over the goal line for a touchdown late in the first half against Virginia. I haven't seen it since then, but those 2 fourth down plays were really big in the game. Tennessee's, I think, just 3 of 13 on fourth down this season, so that's got to be something. I would say the short yardage stuff and the red zone, I think, it's got to be. Tennessee's got to be looking for answers in those situations because they've not been very efficient in those this season, and that's hurt them, and it certainly cost them. Both of those categories cost them in this game.
Yeah, good football teams execute in those situations. And, it's a simplistic situation. You don't have to be super complex, but I do find it interesting. You just talked about Tennessee liking to bunch up in those moments. Nick Saban said that on the real critical fourth down stop, Tennessee likes to go bunch. They recognize it. They had a play installed. Sounds to me like Tennessee may be really predictable in those situations. And if so, that's something that needs to change, obviously.
Yeah, they did last year. They didn't have the same fourth down short yardage problems, though. So it's easy to say that, well, this doesn't work and they should punt it. But they used that a lot last season. Maybe they went into it faster and tempo was a factor. I feel like sometimes on some of these situations they've been too slow. And when you're too slow, you give the defense time to get set. And when you bring everybody in, they're going to be 9 to 10 guys in the box, and it's hard to block everybody.
Yeah, and the guys up front also have to execute, obviously. That plays a role. Lastly, it's a big week. I think it may kind of be swept under the rug a little bit because of how demoralizing Saturday was, but Kentucky is a physical football program. They've had a week off. Tennessee just had a physical football game, kind of licking its wounds. I mean, Tennessee better, to use a Butch Jones phrase, they better snap it clear quick.
Yeah, and Tennessee is a big game for Kentucky. It always is. You go up there on the road at night. Tennessee's got to play better on the road. That's obviously been an issue this season. And mentally, they came back from the Florida loss and played pretty well against UTSA, but that was UTSA and it was at home. So this is going to be a different challenge, and Tennessee they have to put 4 quarters together, right? I mean, on the road they've had the second quarter against Florida. They had the second half against Alabama. Huge scoring runs where they couldn't get momentum back, and they've got to be better in those situations, and they've got to mentally shift the focus. I know for fans it's harder, but players in the building, they have to really shift the focus and get going.
Absolutely. It's another important week for Tennessee football, and we will have plenty of coverage of it all at Go Vols 24/7 throughout the week. He's Patrick Brown. I'm Ben McKee.